Conflicts are never intended to end well. Several important lessons can be learned as Russia approaches the 6-month anniversary of the beginning of the full-scale war that it fought against Ukraine. The most important thing to take away from this is the fact that a war situation has repercussions not just for the parties involved, but for the entire world. What are the repercussions of war globally? Relax, War Explore has got you covered. Ukraine is on life support, Russian troops are suffering significant losses, and the rest of the world is dealing with acute food shortages, skyrocketing inflation, the possibility of a nuclear catastrophe, and other challenges brought on by a brutal conflict that shows no signs of coming to an end anytime soon. This is the harsh reality of the conflict between Russia and Ukraine. The International Committee of the Red Cross issued a warning that the crisis of Ukraine is putting a strain on the whole humanitarian system and may have a lasting impact on the organization's ability to respond to emergencies in other parts of the world. The battle, which has been going on, has driven people to a key breaking point, according to Francesco Rocca, the president of the International Federation of the Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies. As the battle drags on, the catastrophic knock-on effects are only intensifying, with rising food and fuel prices and deepening hunger crises. The death toll from the war in terms of human lives lost. Since February 24th, 5,587 civilian deaths and 7,890 civilian injuries have been officially registered, but the actual number of deaths and injuries is likely to be significantly higher. The Office for the High Commissioner for Human Rights, OHCHR, reports that the vast majority of those killed or injured were brought about by explosive weapons such as artillery, missiles, and airstrikes. On the outskirts of Kharkiv, Ukraine, on February 25, 2022, the body of a serviceman lies covered in snow close to a wrecked multiple rocket launcher truck used by the Russian military. On August 22nd, the commander of the Ukrainian Armed Forces, General Valery Zaluzhny, revealed that over 9,000 Ukrainian service members had been killed during the battle. Since the invasion, this was the first death toll that has been revealed by authorities holding the highest ranks in the armed forces. It has not been made public how many Russian soldiers were killed in this conflict. It has been reported by the intelligence community of the United States that 15,000 Russian soldiers have been killed and 3 times as many have been wounded in the conflict in Ukraine so far. This number is equivalent to the total number of deaths that the Soviet Union experienced during its occupation of Afghanistan from 1979 until 1989. Migration within Ukraine among the population. The United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees reports that as of the 24th of February, over 41 million Ukrainians, or 1/3 of the country's population, have been forcibly displaced from their homes, making this the biggest case of human migration that the world has ever seen. Over 6.6 million Ukrainians have been registered as refugees across Europe, with the highest groups being found in Poland, Russia, and Germany respectively. Ukraine has suffered a loss of territory. Since Russia took Crimea in 2014, Ukraine has lost control of roughly 22% of its territory. This is in addition to the loss of lives that occurred during this time period. It has suffered severe damage to a major chunk of its coastline, its economy is in shambles, and certain cities have been reduced to a desolate state as a result of Russian bombardment. The gross domestic product (GDP) of Ukraine is forecast to drop by 45% in 2022. The precise amount of money lost by Ukraine is difficult to ascertain. Denis Shmyhal, the Prime Minister, estimates that the total cost of the post-war rebuild will be something in the neighborhood of $750 billion. It's possible that it's a lot more. The need for employment in Ukraine is greater than the need for government aid. Half of all Ukrainians have been unemployed since the conflict began. However, only 2% managed to secure even minimal temporary employment. Investment in retraining and education is essential if the scenario is to improve. People who have fled to other nations are ready to return when the time is right. However, if they were to put money into expanding their knowledge and understanding of business culture, they would be able to help revive Ukraine's economy once hostilities ended. A worldwide food shortage. Ukraine produces enough food to feed 400 million people throughout the world. The country accounts for 50% of the world's sunflower oil production, 10% of the world's grain production, and 13% of the world's corn production. The Russian invasion will prevent up to 30% of cropland in Ukraine from being used this year. The shutdown of Black Sea ports and the reduced capacity to move commodities over to the western border have affected supply lines from Ukraine. Farmers are having trouble sowing due to the war and the resulting city blockades, a lack of seeds and fertilizers. Bad things will happen in the fall if farmers don't start planting crops now. The stock market's reaction was immediate. Over the past year, the price of wheat has increased by over 25%. There will be a global food shortage as a result of this supply problem. Russian costs. Russia has also suffered financial losses as a result directly of the conflict. However, it does not publicly discuss these losses because they are classified as state secrets. With the costs incurred by Russia's military, the West has attempted to punish Moscow by enforcing severe sanctions, which have resulted in the most severe jolt to the Russian economy since the collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991. This has caused the Russian government to consider the possibility of resigning from its position as the head of the G8. The Russian economy, which is currently valued at $1.8 trillion, is forecast to drop by 4 to 6% in 2022, which is a lower decline than the 8 to 10% reduction that the central bank had forecasted in April. The implications for Russia's economy are still considerable, and not all of them have been analyzed. It is unable to access the financial markets of the Western world. The bulk of its oligarchs are subject to sanctions, and it has difficulty acquiring some items such as microchips. Russia defaulted on its international debts for the first time, marking the first time the country has done so since the terrible months that followed the Bolshevik Revolution in 1917. Inflation around the world. The invasion and Western sanctions against Russia triggered rapid increases in the prices of energy, metals, wheat, fertilizer, and other commodities. This contributed to a rising food crisis as well as a wave of inflationary pressure that is crashing through the entire economy. Russia is the world's second largest exporter of oil, trailing only Saudi Arabia in that regard. It is the leading exporter of natural gas, wheat, nitrogen fertilizer, and palladium in the world. After Russia's invasion of Ukraine, oil prices around the world have skyrocketed to all-time highs, which hadn't been seen since 2008. The most severe energy shortage since the Arab oil embargo of the 1970s has been made worse by efforts to reduce dependence on Russian oil, gas, and oil products, or even to control their pricing. This shortage has been made worse by efforts to cut back on the dependence on Russian oil, gas, and oil products. After Russia stopped supplying gas through the Nord Stream 1 pipeline to Germany, wholesale rates for gas in Europe soared. There would be a recession in the Euro region if there was a total shutdown, with severe contractions in Germany and Italy. Global economy. The International Monetary Fund (IMF) currently anticipates that the expansion of the world economy will be 3.2%. This is a decrease from the 6.1% expansion that was recorded in 2017 and is significantly lower than the IMF's previous projections of 3.6% in April, 4.4% in January, and 4.9% in October. Under a plausible alternative scenario, the International Monetary Fund predicted that global growth would slow to 2.6% in 2022 and 2% in 2023. This scenario includes a complete cut-off of Russian gas supplies to Europe by the end of the year, as well as a further 30% drop in Russian oil exports, with growth in Europe and the US next year approaching zero. Is there any chance that this war will ever end? What's your thought? Please let us know in the comments down below. And with that, I'll see you all in the next video. We truly hope that you had a great time watching this video. Additionally, we rely on the support of our audience. Therefore, viewers, please subscribe to our channel so that you can witness more incredible evaluations.